Grow your own tree with just pen and paper. Hi, I'm Gene Koo, and this is how to play my game, the Bonsai Diary. I was hesitant about making this video because I don't want people to feel like there's a right or wrong way to play the Bonsai Diary. So think of this as tips and tricks and not a tutorial. So here's the softcover edition of the Bonsai Diary, which you can find at your friendly local game store or online. And this is the print and play edition that you can download from my page on itch.io. Now, if you're using the print and play edition yourself, the one tip I want to say is make sure that you're, of course, double-siding all the pages and that you use thin paper, because tracing is a really important part of the game and you need to be able to see through the pages. So you'll be doing two things in the Bonsai Diary, drawing and journaling. Let's start with the journaling because that comes first. So on the right side of the spread, there will be journaling questions that'll ask you about what's going on in the world that your bonsai inhabits. And every single page is always asks you what year it is and asks you for your name. And this doesn't have to be autobiographical. You can choose for it to be about you, or you can make up a persona. I'm just gonna go with me for right now. And this works just like a lot of journaling games where the booklet asks you questions and you answer them. And I think one of the best approaches to journaling in a game like this is to really use your imagination, but also don't overthink it. Really just go with the first thing that comes into your mind unless you realize there's something much cooler. So in this case, where did you find this seedling? And I think this is really a question that makes you think a little bit about what your day-to-day routine is like and where would you encounter a seedling. So I would say, for me personally, there's a creek near us that I like to walk along, and I would say I found it on the banks of that creek. And then it asks, what future do you imagine for this little tree? And for me, I'd like to imagine that this tree will live for hundreds of years and be happy. Now, in a journaling game, obviously one of the elements is to journal, but if that makes you uncomfortable, you don't really actually have to write in the booklet. You can just imagine. Okay, the drawing part of the Bonsai Diary. Make sure your pages are lined up, because tracing is how you grow your tree from page to page. Let me show you what that means. So I'm going to flip this page here and then collate it like that. Do you see how you can actually see through to the previous page, and there you have the little seedling that we found? So to grow your tree, we're basically going to trace what we have on the previous page, and then in subsequent pages we're going to add more strokes to this drawing. But on this one, on this first page, we're just going to trace. And you can use just about any writing or drawing implement you want. I happen to favor these brush pens because it's nice and neat. You don't have all the messiness of paint. But if you really are super into it, you can use paint. You can use a ballpoint pen, you can use a pencil, you can use anything you want. But for this, I'm gonna show you this brush pen. And we're gonna just trace the stem of this tree, or the seedling really. That's it, it's that simple. And what we're also going to do is make a little container for this seedling. I'm not gonna get too fancy about this because that's not the point of this video, but we'll just do a little basic container. I'm gonna do a soup container. It's just something we have lying around in the house very often. So I'm gonna do that. Give it a little decoration. Now, do you need to draw leaves? you don't need to draw leaves. All you need to do is just do that. But if you feel like it's kind of weird to have this plant with no leaves, go ahead and put some leaves on it if you'd like. Don't feel like you have to make it special or pretty. And that's all you really need to do for the first page. So tracing is pretty straightforward, right? Let's talk about how to grow our tree on subsequent pages. First, when we trace, we can make the line longer. And that's how the tree grows in height. We can also then add another stroke of ink on each page, and that's how the tree grows thicker. Here I'm going to draw the line kind of in parallel to the first line so that you really get the sense that this tree has kind of grown a little bit. And then, if we want to, we can put some leaves on the tree. Here's how to add a branch. So we're going to go to our next page again. Start with the tracing. You don't have to follow the line exactly from the previous page. Here's our parallel line right there. I'm going to add a branch. And so I'm going to start out over here. Just bring it in. And then notice how I then start going in parallel to the first few lines. And that's how it looks kind of like one organic tree, because you're kind of coming in together at the trunk, and then if you look at a tree, you'll see that it gets thinner and thinner as it goes up, right? So when you're adding this branch, you're also adding thickness to the bottom part of the tree. And here I'm going to switch my foliage approach. Instead of drawing individual leaves, I'm just going to draw this kind of cloud of leaves around it. Okay. Last tip here is let your pen flow. Don't overthink it. So I kind of like to let the pen do these kind of jerky little moves, because if you look at real trees, you'll see that they're actually not all smooth and curly. They actually have straight, jagged lines because of the way they grow. So you can mimic that by not letting your pen just be kind of too fluid. So a little bit of spoilers here as to what happens on the fourth page, but do you see how I can create that kind of jerky set of straight lines that feel a little bit like a real tree, and then we'll do a little of the foliage. And the foliage doesn't have to, you'll see that we can imagine there's twigs here where the leaves sit. So even though there's no branch here, I just threw a little bit of foliage, and there's our beginning of a really bonsai looking tree. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope you have a lot of great discoveries and draw a tree that you can really appreciate. Thanks for trying out the Bonsai Diary.